Hello everyone, my name is Hollis Zimmerman and I go to Montgomery College in Rockville, Maryland studying the Radio Broadcasting Associate of Applied Science degree. Ever since I was around 8 years old, I became interested in music and radio broadcasting. I had portable radios, CDs, cassette tapes, and records, and I always used to scan different radio stations and found music that was appealing and that had a unique sound. Whether it would be popular music on adult contemporary radio formats or classic country or oldies music. These radio stations that I grew up played a wide variety of music from different eras and radio formats that fit the audience of a certain area. I used to mimic the different radio station jingles and the professional voice of the disc jockeys who were talking on the air, which sparked an interest in me. I also thought it was magic how radio is brought by everyone by just a signal transmission to the radio towers on frequency to other people's radio, and someone talking through a microphone through an enclosed building. I thought was really neat, and we're actually hearing the person that is talking miles away just through the power of radio. I'm very persistent and ambitious and looking to gain employment in radio broadcasting. I apply for jobs on Indeed.com or use other websites or internships to look for employment. I've been working in the radio broadcasting field and on-air and production for the last 2 years. Most recently, I have a paying job producing radio shows, 2 different political talk shows, and 1 religious programming on Sunday mornings at 1450 AM WTHU in Thurmont, Maryland. I've also learned sound editing with Adobe Audition. I've also recorded other promos for other businesses. I'm also recording high school sports and being the videographer for remote broadcast at local high school sports. And in another opportunity I've been given, I volunteer at a local community radio station, oriented station, where I host my own Golden Oldies show playing the 50s, 60s, early 70s on Saturday mornings on WRGG 93.7 FM in Greencastle, Pennsylvania. I usually give interesting facts about the music, the artists, a huge variety of oldies, giving community events that's happening in the area, along with reading the weather forecast and keeping people informed of what's going on during their weekend, promoting other programming that's happening on the station, along with other news opportunities and happenings in the area. Right now, I'm really loving what I'm doing in both radio opportunities, and I hope to gain some more employment and more radio experience in any aspect of radio broadcasting. Of course, I would. I like on-air, but I also like promotions and production as well, along with advertising. So radio broadcasting has made major changes over the years since the early 1920s with the beginning of commercial licensed radio broadcasting, along with the new development and sound and film media of the conclusion of print media to receive information. Radio became the newest and reliable source in electronic media, including major networks, including the NBC, National Broadcasting Company, CBS, Columbia Broadcasting System, and became reliable for radio stations. And by the 1920s, most radio stations were started by newspapers, like WWJ in Detroit, Michigan, owned by the Detroit News, and KWKA in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as the oldest station to hit the air November 2nd, 1920. And by 1922, the radio craze began when several hundred new radio stations took the airwaves with thousands of people to buy their own radio set. And by 1934, the FRC was renamed the Federal Communications Commission. That still remains under operation under that name. By 1940, the greatest audience attention was on the network's evening program of variety shows like the Fibber McGee and the Jack Benny program. Continuous station operations were manual and could originate programming only by 3 ways: live, via remote telephone line, and radio and education began early as April of 1922, when Medford Hillside's WGI radio broadcast of the first ongoing series of an educational lectures from Tufts College professors and programming of their study. In the 1950s, television started becoming popular in most families' homes, with visual images as well as the audio as a means of entertainment and information. Along with radio stations during the period being restricted playing recorded music on the air and radio drama started dying off, there comes a debut of a new radio format of top 40 radio, giving rise to disc jockeys and locally operating and playing the new style of rock and roll music. By the 1960s, most of the radio formats that were on the AM radio dial, including a younger listenership with less static, becomes the new format of FM radio, and new radio stations and formats changing over time throughout the years, and natural music formats for FM radio, along with top 40 radio coming into the 1970s, which eventually evolves from oldies to classic hits, adult contemporary formats, and country music formats, making their switch from the AM signal to the FM signal from the 1980s and 1990s. And radio has been shaped by demographics, although to a lesser degree than television. Modern radio formats target groups of people by age, gender, and urban or rural setting, or even race. The expansion and dominance of FM radio has become a better audio quality, but a more limited broadcast range than AM, and represents the major technical change in the 70s and 80s. FM radio mainly focuses on music programming, while AM has shifted from news to talk formats. NPR, which is National Public Radio, is a popular format run by most universities and nonprofit organizations and foundations that are used for educational purposes and corporate and by runoff of donation subscriptions and corporate underwriters. NPR was incorporated in February 1970 under the Public Broadcasting Act of 1967. Includes a mixture of news and cultural-oriented programs and locally produced shows. Finally, FM radio has also gained new popularity with satellite radio, with Sirius and XM merging together, which is a new form of radio broadcasting that has fewer limited commercials, with more music formats and variety that most satellite radio services require a radio subscription, but most of these channels are not regulated by the Federal Communications Commission. The way radio is brought out from the station to the listener has made a huge impact since its roots in the beginning of radio in the early 1920s. This continues to remain the popular source for entertainment, news, and an informational source for electronic media for individuals, and continues to make a significant impact on our everyday lives. With FM radio and along with internet radio gaining popularity in today's rapidly growing, changing world, a new form of radio broadcasting that are brought into our car stereos includes internet radio services like Pandora, iHeartRadio, and other media services. So this just continues to remain a popular source for news, entertainment, and informational source of electronic media for individuals, and continues to make a significant impact in our everyday lives. Thank you.